I want to be on your show, Joe. The reason why I want to be on your show is because I believe I can convince you, I can convince the whole world that the MH370 videos are real. I am willing to refute all the VFX debunk attempts that have been out there on your show. Spend time and do that as well. I just want to give information to you, Joe Rogan, and to the world. If at the end of the conversation, you think that I'm in any way disingenuous or that you just don't believe the MH370 videos are real, then I will stop investigating MH370 entirely, cold turkey, won't mention the plane again. Everything on the line, everything, just for one chance to help inform the world about what might be the biggest revelation in the history of our civilization. You've had people like Terrence Howard on who've talked about the ether, talked about phase conjugation. You've had other people in the past who've talked about things like teleportation. You've talked about anti-gravity researchers going away, disappearing, like Ning Li. We can talk about all of that. I'm willing to go through all of the case of MH370. I'm even willing to go against any kind of other expert on the MH370 videos, on the MH370 investigation, and any physicist that's out there that you want to bring on the show. I will argue and debate against any of them on it, and you can be the moderator. That's my proposal to you, Joe. I hope you consider it. Thank you very much. This is Ashton.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Alien Addict again on this Sunday evening here, afternoon for you, or maybe morning. I don't know. Before we go any further, I want you to go and check out our merch. The links are in the description for the merch. Remember, we have a podcast. We're also on X at Real Alien Addict. You can go and follow us on TikTok, which is at Real Alien Addict as well. Pretty much all of the things will be on. But without further ado, my co-host Dave and our guest Ashton Forbes. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Ooh, doing great, guys. How are you?
Good. It's all right. How are you?
Well, you've may first notice I've got my new streaming setup here. Whoa! For the record, this is going to go up on the wall for people who are like, "Why is he sitting on a table?" Well, guys, it takes a little while to set up your new configuration. So hopefully this looks better. I've got more depth on here. I plan to add a little bit more so it's not so boring looking, but. I do want to thank real quick my sign maker here, Drippy Goo. Drippy Goo here helped put together this sign.
I like it. It's
wonderful.
Not too bright too. Like my little alien guy back there. I actually had to wrap him in black cloth, like this, like fine cloth, to get him to tone down because he was just boom blowing out the screen. Yours is good. I like that. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The lights are off. Yeah. So actually, it is really good. I was worried about that because I was playing around with it last night, and I was like, "Oh, is this going to be super bright?" And at night, it might get a little bit harder, but I've got lights and stuff. So actually, it looks really good. It's solid. I'm excited for it. It's sweet. Yeah. And hey, everybody in the chat, nice to see you guys as well.
Well, it's been a while since you've been on. It's been a while since I got to talk to you in general, and we've met in person, so we genuinely know each other.
Yeah, that was fun, man. That was awesome to meet, and like we even discovered we had like a little road trip to another conspiracy potentially going on with that building, right? That was awesome.
Well, that's the thing is it's a legit thing, like that terrorist attack site.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. We looked across the street, and for people who don't know, this building, like somebody supposedly like blew up this giant bomb outside this big building, and the bomb.
Morning.
On Christmas morning, yeah, and nobody died except for the guy, apparently. And this bomb was so big that it blew up like 4 buildings across the street. And we were sitting there staring at it. It looks like rubble from like Palestine or like Iraq or Syria. Like the whole building is just completely destroyed.
And it's more than that even. Like that has been years ago. That's all the rebuild. When it blew, it went down the alleys. It tore everything up. And the beauty is like they're still finding debris from the blast because his van bomb that he had loaded with scrap metal to be able to hide the bomb making. Because those who don't know, making bombs is a signature. How did you make it? How did you put it together? How does your trigger work? Like all those things you can figure out where somebody learned these things. It was cool. It was fun, man. We had a really good time. I definitely had a really good time. It was good getting to know you. And for all those new listeners that we have who may not know, which I have that hard to believe, you have really taken to bat with the MH370, which is the missing Malaysian flight that disappeared in 2014, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, right away, what I want to say is the MH370 videos are real. I know that they are real, and that's not just investigation, but the investigation should be enough to convince most people out there. I also think that if people understood the idea of gravity manipulation technology and understood that a wormhole or, maybe we're seeing macroscopic phase conjugation, some of these advanced scientific concepts are real, I don't think people would even be questioning whether or not the videos are real because there's just so much evidence with like the coordinates that match the real location, the timing of the videos coming out, 2 videos from different perspectives. Like most people without the orbs and the zap would never even be questioned. They'd be like, that's 100% obviously MH370. And I think that that's what's been so incredible about this journey is this discovery of the science along with it, and then finding out that all this science is out there and been suppressed and our understanding of physics is incomplete. But like there's already been people like Thomas Bearden, like shout out to this guy. I can't believe he died in 2022. He, along with Salvatore Pais, would be like the only people, the people that I would want to meet the most in the world. Like other people want to go meet like, Usher and other various celebrities out there. For me, it's like I want to meet like the engineers that have developed magical technology. Those are the people who I want to like shake their hand because Thomas Bearden deserves a Nobel Prize. And so if you're not familiar with my work, you guys can check that out. I get a lot of the same questions every day about like, well, what about this debris that they found? Or I thought it was a suicidal pilot or whatever. Like I've addressed those questions like 10 times per day, and they're all in my highlights out there. The truth is, if you just cursory glance at the evidence, you'll realize that these narratives that are being sold are just complete fabrications. There's plane didn't crash in the South Indian Ocean, wasn't some suicidal pilot scenario that is like going around these roundabout ways. And if you check out what I just posted today, 100% absolute proof that there was at least 5 radar systems that would have been tracking the plane after they say that they lost radar contact with it. 5 different systems. Mm-hmm. None of them have made publicly available. Nobody's talking about, like, just think about that for a second, where it's like, if this was a situation where it was either a suicidal pilot or a hijacking scenario, all that data would have been released the next day, where they're like, we were trying to track it here and we were trying to track it here. And here's all the information to like get the information out there. The only reason why you cover all that up is it's a state sponsored event. Like, and the only state that's doing the sponsoring in this case is the United States government. They're the ones that have the relationships with all those countries to be like, don't release that, don't talk about that, just pretend like you never saw anything, all that.
Well, that's one of the wild things, isn't it? I mean, everybody knew, like even before you really kicked off this whole investigation, when people like linking the video with the crash, everybody knew there was something up with the MH370 situation. But now I've noticed an increasing amount of people that have been going after what you've been doing are not just going after what you're doing. They're doubling down on like the official narrative that nobody believed up until like a couple of months ago. It's strange.
Yeah, and they were really pushing that narrative, I mean, it's funny because you can find old articles from back in like 2014, 2015. And the idea of it being like a suicidal pilot was considered one of the least likely, and it was literally considered a conspiracy theory, like one of the least likely conspiracy theories out there. And now people are trying to mainstream it. There's literally no evidence for it at all. Like there's more evidence that the plane got warped away by the United States government, magnitudes more, because there's just absolutely none. There's not even any evidence the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean. Like that's what's wild about it. And the attacks have been ramping up against me as well, which should be a huge sign that something's amiss, because nothing like this has ever happened to hoax videos that have been pushed out there ever in the history of the world. Like, we've never had videos, any situation or scenario like this. And the fact that, like, there's actually literally people now, like, producing like pretty well produced videos, trying to convince people the videos are debunked, and they're paying hundreds and thousands of dollars on X using like the promote button. They've admitted that they're doing this to try to promote this information because it's a literal, by definition, disinformation campaign, and it's coordinated. They admit that it's coordinated. And to me, that should really be raising people's eyebrows, because we're looking at 2 military videos in perfect synchronization from different perspectives, using classified assets, filming a plane that was never found, not even 10 years later. It's wild, man.
The attacks definitely pique my interest when watching it. Because again, you know, we've had you on a bunch of times. We had you on early on in the beginning, and since then, like I said, we've met in person. You know, you're someone I'm definitely friendly with. Like, I feel like I know you. You know, I would say we're taking long showers together. We don't hold hands on the beach. You know, it's not a docking situation. There's no lube involved. But we know each other. Like,
I mean, this is something you need. If this is something you need, you know, Dave.
No, I don't.
I'll consider it. I mean, you're married. You're a married man. You're a taken man.
Yeah, I just take it. I like the fight, but that went sideways. But like, you know, we met. My significant other was there. You had a acquaintance that was there, so we spent an evening. We got to know each other. That matters. Yeah. And when I see the attacks come, it's just insane. It's insane. The level, the personal, the vitriol behind it. It just kind of blows my mind, because if someone wants to argue the point, stay on the facts. Because before we came on here and I told you I was going to bring this up, I showed him to a very smart friend of mine. He's been on the show once a long time ago. I would love to get him on. You come back to Nashville, I could probably get you to meet this guy. He's one of the smart people who work on magic-esque things. And shown in the video, like we'd gone back and forth about it, and he only, briefly was into it. And he had made a point that we need a wider angle shot and we could know what's going on there, because it runs through different things. Like, one of the things he even ran through was like, it could have just been vaporized. Yeah. He's like, if they're building up the energy it needs, you turn everything to atoms. He's like, that's well within physics. Those are things we're working on. And teleportation, wormholes. He's like, these are things we're working on. They're actively working on them, moving things through a transdimensional space. He's like, that's modern physics is on that.
And that's what we're bringing up here, right? Like, that's that's the conversation I'm trying to push forward. And this is what's so clown shoes about the UFO community, right? Where it's like, these are the people that should be the first people to believe in wormholes and teleportation, because that's what it requires for aliens to come visit us. And yet they don't. And it's like, you've got, I mean, I just did an interview, or did a stream last night where we looked at a video from over maybe 10 or 20 years ago. And it's a 30-year aeronautical engineer, Paul Size, I think his name is. And he had also spent 8 years at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with the Air Force. And he's talking about planes going Mach 12, 14,000 miles an hour, and literally drops in wormholes, and the concept of teleportation and having matter become energy and back to be matter again, which is the idea of phase macroscopic phase conjugation. It's just like, this stuff is out there, but people just have no concept of it. And then the problem, though, is that I've talked to a lot of people, like similar situations what you just said with your friend. Like, people have reached out to me, but this stuff is so compartmentalized that unless you are like literally the person that engineered it, like, you don't know that it's out there, that exists. Like, that's how compartmentalized the special access programs are. So even people that are super knowledgeable, that they know about magic technology, they don't know that this is real and this is out there.
A great example of this that is real world, that is not a conspiracy, is the new Mantis drone that DARPA and the Navy have released. That is 100 and something plus feet wide and long. It is a massive automated drone that charges itself by the temperature differential of the different ocean currents and can sit indefinitely in the ocean and at work. We don't know what it can do. We don't know what it has. How the battery and that whole differential charging to run something that big is all classified. The material it's made out of to absorb that is classified. They built something that big and have been testing in the oceans, and nobody knew about it.
Yeah, and along those same lines, like Paul Size was talking as well about this idea of this material that they would have on the aircrafts that could keep it cool on the inside while they're going at high temperatures like that as well. And it does make you wonder, because especially, I don't like to talk too much about the UFO stuff, but one of these things is this like magnesium bismuth zinc layer, like does make you wonder if there's like specific metamaterial compositions at the atomic layer that can like literally polarize the hull of a ship or something in a way that would allow for these types of superluminal speeds or, you know, wormhole type events to occur for a craft. I think the crazy part for me was finding out that, well, not only is it just like a craft that can do it, but you can have some orbs floating around it and then cause that effect for something that's like an airplane, or you can imagine a boat or a missile. Yeah, create a pocket.
Yeah, a super magnetic energized pocket that, depending on, and again, it matters in the wavelength, that I'm not a smart enough guy as my friend is, but he immediately saw it and recognized the first thing he caught is that they're moving in X pattern. He's like, X pattern would be building an envelope. That envelope, and he made an excellent point. We would need to see an expanded view to see, did the clouds in space move? Because if it's teleported, it teleports all mass, everything within that field and envelope,
everything in the azimuth,
and then everything has to fill together. Yeah, like
and that's the tricky part, because so here's the thing about that. I'm glad you brought that up, because so first of all, the annihilation thing, I've never ruled out the annihilation thing. I just think that there's like a 1% chance. In fact, early on, I thought for sure it was annihilation. I was 100% convinced. And then like there's evidence though of like a B777 fire suppression device washing up in the Maldives. Islanders saw the plane later on, which then begins to build this narrative of this plane went somewhere else, which means that wasn't the complete end. Possibly. And there's and there's too much moving, too much action, right? Like when it's mapping the plane like that, if I'm just annihilating it, I don't care to like map the exact center of mass of the plane and how big the thing needs to be, right?
That's interesting, and we can talk on that specifically. So the different type of futuristic energy, and again, I would love to get him back on. The type of energy weapons we're talking about, that field to atomize something, we think sci-fi ray gun. He's like, if you have something that's moving like that it's moving within a magnetic field, he's like, you're ripping apart at the subatomic level. It goes from existence to non-existence, which could explain that flash. He's like, because it's entropy, so you're going to have a cooling, but you're also going to have a release at a particle level that'll be picked up on IR.
Yeah, and the problem with that is like, you know, E equals MC squared. So that was the other thing. So unless you have like antimatter, which would be like a complete annihilation. Does
like
what?
That our understanding, like this whole thing shows that our understanding of physics is limited.
It's true.
It has been lied to us. We don't have a complete look at things. I mean, hey, Terrence Howard's been on a whole kick about that, and my other nerd friends can't debunk half of what he says, so I'm starting to lean towards that guy's making some points. And even this, right? Within the bound knowns of physics we have, these are all theories, but we're seeing a practical effects. That means leaps have been made, and those leaps to make that have steps. We have no idea what those steps are, and that's a whole new regulation of physics. I think it's interesting. I think the technology you're bringing up is interesting, and that's really what everyone should be focusing on. Like, we wouldn't know about Lockheed Martin's program without you.
Yeah, and that's why like the technology side of it too is like there's no wormhole experts, at least none that are on the public record. The people talk about it, but that's why we're like, I think some people were arguing that, oh, it shouldn't look like this or that. Well, like the whole point of them filming that with the drone is for intelligence purposes. Like,
to test.
I don't think this was, well, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a test, but it is like they want to see how it actually operates. Like they don't do this all the time. So they want to collect as much information they can about it, so that when they go back to the engineers, they can be like, here's the video of us doing it, like, you know, calibrate, how can you improve this?
What did this
that's
tell
what
you?
they're doing it for. Yeah, what does this tell you exactly?
Yeah,
and that's the interesting part, because like
test, man.
It's very similar to those. Like we test, we're filming all the nukes because we want to see exactly how it plays out. And this is the thing where, you know, you look at the Defense Intelligence Agency papers about warp drives, wormholes, traversable wormholes, extra dimensions, the ether, negative energy, you know, all that stuff is like you see a lot of it's consistent. Like one thing about the phase transition with the event, or not, I keep saying event horizon, but that's for black holes. The mouth of the wormhole, I'm going to call it there. Is that like the photons? Imagine the photons. Like light is everywhere, right? Even if it's pitch black, there's light. So you're going to have photons hitting this plane, and then you're creating this bubble around it. What happens when the photons hit the bubble? Well, in this case, they're going to shoot back off and bounce out. That can explain the flash as well, according to one of those papers. It even says that there would be a lensing effect. And that's exactly what we see, that gravitational lensing effect where the orbs bend right before the wormhole opens up. and that the plane gets kind of like a little bit elongated and blurs.
It's funny you bring up gravitational lensing, because he had brought that up as well. If it was destroyed, you would see that as well, because it's ripping apart fundamental matter. Like you're dissolving gravity, which you have to increase somewhere. So you're going to have a lack in a pool.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing. Again,
so yeah,
not smart enough to know. Like at half of the conversation, my nose just bled. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. But there's no hoax videos out there where like you've got multiple defense intelligence agency papers explaining the science. So you've got engineers coming out of the woodwork and physicists to be like, this proves this real. And then like we literally are, I wouldn't say discovering new laws of physics, but discovering that the gaps in our understanding of physics are also explained by these videos. Like, to me, people just have to piece that together. Even if you ignored all the evidence of the investigation, that should start to give people pause. Like, we don't know what dark energy and dark matter are, but this video explains what they are. This video explains that there's an ether, there's an extra dimension. And people have been out there saying space is not empty. They're 100% correct. Like, the idea of the space-time ether is that there is this latent underlying energy that's always out there. Now, we call it negative energy, but this is what I want people to understand is that power does not flow through wires. People have this misconception where you set wires up. Power is not flowing through the wires. The electrons move very slowly through wires. And this was, I was showing this Vertasium. If you guys want to go check him out, he's got 16 million followers on YouTube or whatever. He does electrical engineering stuff. He shows an experiment, proves that if you set up like a wires going all the way around, and I have a battery like right here, and I have the light right next to it, the light turns on based on the distance between the battery and the light, not going through the wires and all the way around. And it's because there's a field of power that's flowing from the battery directly to the light, regardless of the wires and the configuration of the wires. And this should immediately give people pause, because it was funny. He made that video, and then he had like a half dozen debunkers like yelling at him, making debunk videos, claiming that he's wrong and that's not how it works. And I just started laughing because I'm like, this reminds me of the MH370 stuff, where like these are like PhD electrical engineers who don't understand how power works, and they're making debunk videos to try to like convince people that it can't be possible because it would break causality or all these other things. So then he has to do a follow-up video, and he actually makes a scaled down version of it and proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that yes, the power is flowing through fields through space-time. And how is that even possible? There has to be a medium. In order for electromagnetic waves to propagate, there needs to be a medium. Terrence Howard mentions this on Joe Rogan, which is like,
so, and this is the direction you're taking from with that, where that MH370's led you to these alternative technologies and energy, which I think is an awesome connection. It's the right connection, right? It's the right connection. The questions are there. The companies involved are there. These are things that we know. There's no easy answers, and the nature and coordination of the attacks lead to some credence that there's questions there that, whether you believe them or not believe the videos or whatever, there's questions that these things raise that should be easy to knock down for anyone, and they're not.
Yeah,
So
that's the interesting part too, right? Where I've challenged everyone, right? And first of all, the fact that Joe Rogan doesn't have me on is getting kind of weird at this point, because he's got Terrence Howard on there, and people are just going after Terrence Howard now.
He hasn't had Trump on either. So
yeah, well, I don't know if I'm up there with Trump, but he's had a lot of people out there that are talking about the same concepts that I'm talking about. And I'm going to be pissed off if he has Jeremy Corbell on again, because like Jeremy Corbell is just completely full of shit, and whatever like crap he's pushing is completely unscientific. So, you know, like he should be looking at me before he goes and looks at Jeremy Corbell pushing another jellyfish video or whatever the hell he's pushing these days. But I've challenged everyone out there. I have challenged like literally everyone. I've said, like, if you want to challenge me on the videos, right? If you're a prominent person, I'm not going to argue with like the low rents debunker Redditors or whatever who are like not saying their name and hiding their faces. Like you're not going to get a debate from me. But like, you know, I've challenged Mick West. Mick West has now dodged 5 debates. Guys, if you think the videos are debunked, you should ask yourself why the #1 debunker in the world is so afraid of debating me that he's dodged 5 debates over the last 8 months.
That is a fantastic.
Like, think about that. He debated about the
question.
gimbal videos. He debated that, like, whatever the guy's name, Mark Veer or whatever his name is, he debated him, but he's too afraid to debate me because, and I've even said I'll give him like my first 5 questions because he can't answer like most of my questions and he knows he can't. And that's the reason why he's afraid. Even the MH370 experts are afraid.
Maybe the feds won't pay him the overtime for the debate.
And we can talk about that in a sec.
But crunch right now, man, those things have to be approved ahead of time. We just passed that. So the budget for the new year is already locked in.
And yeah, and I've learned that it's like they're not paying these people directly, but like he's a fellow on the Skeptical Inquirer. Where if you look at these people, it's like Bill Nye, the science guy, and like Neil deGrasse Tyson are on this fellow grip, and that's how they get paid. Like he wrote an article about MH370. He's getting paid for that, so he's literally getting paid to try to debunk the videos. Now, who's paying them? Who's paying Skeptical Inquirer? Like, who even reads that shit?
It is weird.
Here's the thing, though, real quick, is that like
donations from a nonprofit based out of Panama.
Yeah, exactly, a nonprofit, right? So it's like, where's that money coming from? And then what I've learned is the government uses these shell companies, and this is how they make the paper trail of the money disappear. This is why they can't pass an audit either. And for the record, absolutely, there are disinformation agents out there. I just think that there's way less than what people think. For most people, it's just that like another thing that Joe Rogan was talking about was a psychologist, where she was talking about rumination. Rumination is this idea that like you can't stop thinking about something, and this like actually messes people up mentally, where like they ruminate on these things and stew about them. That's what a lot of these people are doing about me. Like they're ruminating about me, you know, and they're trying to, and then they invent these weird stories in their head and these like parasocial like connections to me, and try to invent these narratives about how I must be some kind of liar or whatever. The rumination is a very real and scary thing, where like people make the joke about you need to go outside and touch grass, but like that's actually what some of these people need to do is like go just get outside and have your mind think about something else and focus on things that are productive. But real quick, before I lose this thought,
no worries.
You know, I've challenged people on the videos. I've challenged the experts on MH370 because I feel like my knowledge of the plane and the investigation, regardless of the videos, is up there with anybody. And Jeff Wise even dodged that. He was on the Netflix documentary. This guy like is trying to do podcasts for MH370. Nobody's watching it. Like this would be a big opportunity for him. I have a much bigger following than he does. It'd be a big opportunity for him to gain some attention to his, you know, pet theory of it going to the Russia. He's afraid to talk to me. And even the physicists are afraid. The physicists and scientists are afraid because you know why they're afraid is that if it turns out that they would come and debate me, and then in the future they end up being wrong, like it gets proven there is an ether, then their credibility is shot forever. And these people, the thing about academics is they care so much about how people view them and their level of credibility. This is why they're afraid. It's because otherwise you would have these people coming at me left and right being like, this can't be real. This is pseudoscience, whatever.
It's a political game for academics, man. You can never take any of that to heart. The one thing the past several years have showed us, people who base everything off authority because they played the games right and they went through school. And I'm not knocking if you were good at school, but let's be honest, most of it is set up for the mediocre to succeed. Look at your biggest entrepreneurs and billionaires out there. They're not the school guys. They just made things happen. And my friends who are the super engineers who are contracted to do amazing things, they got pulled out of school by these contracting companies for projects they were working on while in school, right? Like they didn't know, there's no point in you going to do this. Come work for us, sign the disclosures now. We're going to show you the world. You know, that's where it is. So yeah, you're doing the right thing. I would never let any of those people get to you. Because you're bringing up real things, man. You're bringing up real things that people should be talking about.
Yeah, and even like, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Josh. You know, just how are you adjusting? Because the especially over the last couple of months, it's just exploded for you now. You're now over 100,000 followers on X.
Almost 40,000 now.
140,000.
Awesome, man. That's crazy.
See, I put the intro up for this show this afternoon on TikTok to advertise the show. That has up to now had something like 30,000 views, which is quite a good TikTok for us. But the weird thing was when I was hashtagging it, I hashtagged you in it, and I thought, how fucking weird must it be that you're a hashtag?
You are a hashtag.
I was trending, like literally Ashton was trending for with 7,000 like hits or whatever on Twitter, which that's a pretty reasonable number. I took some screenshots because like it's surreal to be like, whoa, you're like this investigation's trending or my name is trending because a lot of people are talking about it. It's weird. I would never expect it. I think I posted in our Discord the other day where I was like, you asked me a year ago, I'd never said I'd be a social media influencer. But the crazy part is like almost 140,000 followers, and I've never been on TV. I've never been on Joe Rogan. Like, sure, I've been on Glenn Beck or Alex Jones, but you know,
those are arguably bigger than TV.
Yeah, at this point, you could say so. But you know, it's not like they're talking about me in the newspapers or on the nightly news and stuff like that. Like, you know, you compare it to someone like Jake Chansley, right? The media tries to vilify this guy. He's being talked about on every single news station. The J6 stuff was huge. I've got more followers than he does now, right? It's like, just to show you. And the reason why is that there's a lot of people that are woken up that look at it. And I'm talking about the craziest shit, the craziest stuff, like teleporting an airplane, United States stealing an airplane. And now just to add on, I'm talking about free energy as possible. And by the way, all of this stuff is real. And, you know, people are gravitating towards it because people gravitate towards the truth. This is why nobody watches what Jeff Wise does, even though he's like an official investigator. He's only got like 12,000 followers. And if you go look at his posts, it's got like 100 views and like no likes, because people know when they're here listening to somebody that's just completely full of shit, right? It's like, don't be boring. That's I think the number one thing on social media. So, yeah, at the end of the day, like, that's why it's just so wild about this movement. And I just keep thinking, like, how do I take this to the next level? And I think I figured it out, like free energy, you know, like it took me months to even figure out that this all leads back to free energy. Like, this is how the orbs are moving around the plane, is they're extracting energy from the environment, and the environment is the ether. And then when you look at the stuff about power and how power doesn't flow through wires, you realize that all power, all the lights, everything we're doing, it's all coming from the ether all the time. All the energy is that every single thing that we see, that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from a little battery. It's not like the power isn't like hiding in the battery. That is just like a mechanism to connect to the energy in the ether and extract that energy at will. And this is the thing that people need to begin to realize, that it's much simpler than what people had think about it in their minds. And the ether is simply the underlying, like I like to call it now, the space-time ether. It's not that we're getting rid of space-time. It's just like, that is the canvas on which our reality is painted, and the mass is the paint, right? And that's why we don't see it out there. But to your point about the transition of the plane, that's why what's happening is that we're ripping through that. We're ripping through that paint, you know, even the air, you know, and stuff like that.
Possibly.
We're ripping through that.
Yeah, we're breaking bonds. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's immediately self-correcting, right? It's immediately closing that gap back up, and within, like, we can even measure it. Like, I think it happens in the videos like a 10th or a 20th of a second. Like, that's how quick, it's like the snap of a finger that it is closing up or disappearing. And so then the question is, okay, well, if this is all about free energy, and that's what this all leads to, then that's the thing I want to solve. That's the thing I want to prove. I just want to prove that if I can prove that we can just hypothetically create a device that can run forever, like a perpetual motion machine that can produce energy, that can run everything in here, that proves it all, right? That proves free energy is possible. That proves the ether is possible. And indirectly, I think it proves the videos are possible, because, like, what did I say at the beginning? The thing that's holding people back is they don't think it's scientifically possible.
You know what the
once
history
they realize
is for people pursuing this, right? You know what the history is for people pursuing
Oh, yeah,
this.
yeah. I'm probably going to get killed. I mean, I'm just saying it. Like,
autoerotic
let's just be honest about it. Like, it's, and that's the good news. The good news is that, like, I don't have any major skeletons in my closet. Everybody's got probably some skeletons, and I don't know what they'll try to dig up. They've tried to dig up everything in my past already. Like, that's another thing that's bizarre. And this is why I was telling people yesterday, part of the reason why I did this is because, like, I have a security clearance. So that already eliminates so many potential skeletons, because I was watching this clip yesterday where Paul Size is talking about how you get your security clearance. And he talks about how it takes 6 to 12 months. And I'm like, I know that because I literally went through it and went through that process. And so my background has been checked by the United States government, which is one of the most thorough background checks in the world. If there's anything out there, they would have found it. And so it makes me a good candidate to disclose this, because you can't really attack me that much from the disinfo side of it. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to try to attack my character or whatever. But that's why I do like 80 podcasts, so you can just like see my character and how honest I am. And then, and I have flaws like everybody else. You know, I get angry, I make mistakes, etc. But I think that just shows that I'm a human like anyone else. And then the other side of it is the harming yourself side of it. Like, I have no plans to harm myself. I love my life. And I don't even own a firearm. So if I were to magically shoot myself or something, like, it would literally be impossible. Like the Boeing whistleblower guy, and like maybe even Amy Eskridge and stuff like that, where it's like, I don't, and you guys will probably be like, hey, you should probably have a firearm. But
you should definitely have a firearm.
I knew you guys were going to say that, but it prevents it from me, like, shooting myself accidentally or whatever like that, So
you could commit suicide in a park. twice in the back of the head and there be no gun found. Happens
Now,
all the time in DC.
that's not how they're going to do it, though. Like, it'll be like the
Nah.
heart attack gun would hit me, right? And
Nah,
also, I didn't take the shot either, so there's no dying suddenly. Like, I'm just a good candidate where, like, am I going to get disappeared? Honestly, there's a decent % chance. It's a non-0% chance.
Understand if they do it, it'll be to discredit. So it'll be something like autoerotic asphyxiation with a bunch of like troll dolls and BDSM gear.
Yeah, no, I hope that's actually the number one thing I'm afraid of is them putting something on my computer and then like doing a surprise raid and finding like some CP or something on my computer. And then like, I mean, how would I even like know that they put it on my computer? There's no way, right? Like that's how you really get somebody. And that's why like I don't even use my computer for anything other than investigation, just so that like that can't even be a thing. So I'm trying to get ahead of like every possible thing that could happen. But yeah, so my plan is to try to prove that free energy is real. And I've got stuff in the works already. I'm not ready to discuss the exact nature of that or the timeline of that at the moment.
Online, man.
But I think it's going to be pretty exciting, I think. And so what I want to say on this front too, while we're talking about free energy, a lot of people say, open source it, right? Just tell everybody how it works. I'm going to give you guys some good news and bad news, okay? Good news is I'm going to prove that free energy is real. The bad news is it's not going to go down the way that people imagine it would go down, where you put the information on the blockchain and give it to people. That would not solve anything. That's not how the information is out there. I'm actually looking at a list of 10 free energy devices right now. So, and some of these people have open sourced them. It doesn't solve anything, because having an invention or idea is one thing. Those things have been suppressed for decades. It's how you actually get it out there to the world, how you commercialize it. And people say, well, that means you're going to make money off of it. Well, everything requires money in this world. That's, there's materials that are required to build these things. There's labor that is required to build these things. Just to give some people some perspective, as a consultant myself, just in healthcare IT, I've been billed out for over $200 per hour to companies before. Okay. So imagine somebody who is equally specialized, who is able to create the right resonance needed to produce one of these devices. You're looking at $200 an hour just for labor costs. Okay. So the things are going to cost money. Free energy doesn't mean everything, the devices are free. It just means that you can extract unlimited energy from the environment. What it means is that you can take a device, you can plug it in to get it started, unplug it, and it will just perpetually run your entire house like a generator, right? So my goal is not to put the stuff on the blockchain or whatever. Like this is proprietary information anyway.
And these are proven devices. You're saying these are proven devices. The
idea would be to prove the device to anybody who wants to buy one, right? And say like, here, I can show you that it 100% works, that it's not a scam. Right. And then let the free market take it from there. Right. The same idea where, some of these other products that have come out there, it's like you give them to the right people, the influencers that are out there, you convince those people. And once enough people are convinced that it's not a scam, that they've been using it, that they've been running it, then everybody else wants one and starts to buy in. The big thing is, what's the price point? For something like this is not cheap. This is not a situation where it's like, I'm going to get a $100 free energy device. I just went through some of the material and labor costs required to produce it. So this is, in my opinion, is how you get it out there to people. It's not, and what I'm doing to try to prove that that's even possible, feasible, is all the stuff in science streams that I've been doing, which is like, here's the history of it. Here's the people that have produced them. Here's how it works. Here's the scientific concepts behind it. So if anyone else wants to go out there and produce their own or do whatever, that's great. We can be competitors in the future if you want. Like, I have nothing against that. But at the end of the day, like, the reason why electric cars, for example, why did electric cars not exist in the 80s and the 90s? It's not like electric car, it wasn't like a new concept. Like I was a little kid and I imagined the idea of an electric car in the early 90s and the late 80s. It's because somebody had to come through and they had to commercialize it. And that person was Elon Musk. He started up Tesla. He made Teslas cool. Everybody was betting against Tesla. Everybody out there was betting against his company. I don't know if you guys remember that. And now everybody wants Teslas. Now everybody's making electric cars and everything like that. That's how we bring it to the world.
He appled it. That's one thing. Apple have been excellent at over the years. Maybe not quite at the minute when it comes to VR, but they've been really good at taking other things that have been around for a while, repackaging them, making them user friendly, and more to the point, making them desirable as well.
Yeah, it is a lot of that, right? And this is the part where this is my actual skill set, like learning the
guys,
engineering and that
I
stuff.
have to jump off right now.
Oh, okay.
Weather.
Yeah, I've got to let my dog in real quick, so I'll be
Yeah,
right
well,
back.
no, it's I mean, I'm gone
Yeah,
for
you've gotta
this.
go.
So everyone have fun. Yeah, it's a tornado.
Oh, you're a
So
tornado? Holy shit. Okay.
possibly. I got to get my
Be safe.
family
Well, I'll
real
chat
quick.
with Lee for a little bit, but
All right.
one second.
Hey, bro, it's good to see you. We'll
Be
holler,
safe, man. Be
See ya.
safe. I'll be right back.
No worries. And then there was Lee.
Bye, Lee.
Hope everyone's good, mate. Everybody in the chat, I hope everyone's good. Oh,
appreciate my 4 orb sign there. Oh,
yeah. Sorry, so you were saying the
yeah, Lulu's at wrong side of the door, doggo.
Oh no. Yeah, there was somebody said in the chat before because I was gonna bring it up, and they asked, what happens to the monetary system with free energy?
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like, guys, it's not going to end the monetary system. Like, I think people have the wrong idea of free energy again, because even a free energy device costs money to produce. So it's the same thing as like where electric cars become more and more better. Electric cars didn't obsolete gas powered cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same idea here. Is that it's just a competitor. And then there'll be a price point where people will want to buy it as opposed to paying the energy company. And some people, the big benefit is energy independence. I think that's probably the number one selling point is like, hey, this is a device where you are no longer dependent upon the power company anymore, which normally are like controlled by the government, and that you can live off the grid anywhere you want. And you would have no dependency anymore for being on the grid, And so I think that there would be a lot of people like in the prepper community and stuff like that that would be interested in this kind of stuff. And my goal would be early on, the way that I've learned about it is going to be pretty expensive. So most likely it'll be people that are more well off or influencer type people that would want these kind of devices. And then slowly over time, it gets cheaper and cheaper. Actually, much like Tesla's. Like when Tesla's first came out, it was like, what, $50,000 was like the cheapest car you could get from a Tesla probably. And then they start coming out with like the Model 3s or whatever they are, the more affordable ones. And then they had like big price discounts where now I think like you can get ones for like 35,000 or something like that if it's brand new off the lot. I would imagine something similar like that. And I also imagine that based on how much power output you want, there would be different price points. So like just hypothetically, and I'm just literally making something up here, maybe early on, like the lowest price point one is $20,000 or $30,000. And then it goes up to ones that are as much as $100,000 or more that can like literally power like a whole, probably commercial building. And I also imagine that there would be like commercial demand. It's not, another thing people don't understand about business is that you have the commercial side where like companies buy things, and those would be like usually those are significantly more higher price points. And then you have like the commercial side of it. So you have the business side of it, a bit like business to business, and then business to consumer. And the business to consumer side, would be smaller scale stuff. And then it depends on what you're trying to do. Like the Mark Zuckerbergs who have their bunkers or whatever, they want to be able to run, tons of devices. They would buy something that's higher end. If you're just like living out in the country and you just want a generator that can run a few lights in your computer and stuff like that, then you just get something that's significantly smaller and doesn't require that much. So to me, I love this idea because I think it's realistic. It's not this idealistic thing where it's like, oh, just show people how to do it and people do it themselves or whatever. It's like what I was saying on stream last night is like, you could, like, people don't want to know like how you produce an iPhone, right? It's like me going through how to make an iPhone doesn't really solve anything. That's not going to get people to like make your own iPhone, So I like the idea of like, okay, commercializing it. And if people want to say that I'm like, profiting off of it or whatever, well, truth to be, yeah, kind of. I mean, I think that's how businesses work. So
but you can't go and save the world by going, right, well, I'm just going to start by making 3,000 of them so I can give them to 3,000 people first, and then go on this altruistic mission to try and make as many of these things as possible to give them away. Life doesn't work like that. But
Oh yeah, and,
to me, it
and somebody asked
sounds
real quick. They asked about the banking system collapsing. It's
Mhm.
banking system is not going to collapse, no chance. And now there would be huge socioeconomic changes because over time we have less and less dependence on oil, natural gas, and all these other things as well. Absolutely, there will be turmoil. But the thing about economics, as you learn, is it's a self-correcting mechanism as well. Like as one thing goes up, the other thing comes down, and it's not usually the kind of thing where it instantly changes. It's not like we can produce millions of these devices instantly. Most likely, this would be a situation where it's going to be on demand to begin, and if the company were to take off and people demand were to increase, then you would start to scale it up, and we probably would look for like partners who can help to produce them and things like that. But there's going to be a big issue of like, once somebody learns how to do it, then they're going to try to, make knockoffs
it's
and
going
all
to
this
create
stuff,
an
right?
industry.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do though, because that would be awesome. And then that's what the people that want it to be on the blockchain or whatever, that solves their problem, is you create an industry out of it. You have competitors, and then everybody has access to free energy. And then, people that want it can want it, and you let the free market decide how it play out. Real quick, somebody else said, what if free energy creates an insane amount of radiation? This is actually one of the first questions I asked when I was talking to people about this, because Thomas Bearden talks about this idea that some of these devices like literally will bend space-time around them. From what I've understood, the type of thing that I would want to produce is not going to have any risks like that. But most likely there would be a disclaimer that everybody has to sign who were to buy one that says like, the company isn't responsible for your misuse of the product or something like that. Because otherwise there's going to be people who are going to like, oh, this gave me cancer, blah, blah, blah. Right. But there would definitely need to be some safety checks in place to make sure that, either you store it in a location that it's safe or whatever. But in general, what I've been told is that there's not really any major risks of like, it's not like being around like a nuclear power plant or anything like that.
How do you go about taking something like this and pushing it to market? As in, like, if from a manufacturing point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first, before I get to that part, somebody said MH370 to free energy. Lol, Ashton broke physics. Honestly, I think about that a lot. Like literally, I'm just fucking breaking physics here. Like the complete perception. That's why I love the idea of moving to free energy. Because it's like, you know what? I don't even want to argue with people about VFX and videos and shit like that. I'm just gonna like, if it's real, then we're gonna be able to produce it. I'm gonna be able to make a shit ton of money off of it, presumably, and help out the world with like just changing the economy, completely ending our reliance on fossil fuels, and getting rid of pollution and everything like that. The amount of benefits are just if you're
none of that matters. None of that matters because like Lou reviews, so you got a $20 super chat. So
I got a $20 super chat. God, if you think they're upset now, imagine when we start selling free energy devices for tens of thousands of dollars. Then they're going to be really pissed off. I mean, they're mad at $20 super chats right now. But so how do you do it? So that's a good question too. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot for the last few weeks, is like, because again, business is actually my area of expertise. The physics and electrical engineering stuff is stuff that I've just been trying to learn and catch up on the last 6 months. Of business is like, I'm a triple major in business. I went to business school. I'm a major in marketing, finance, and international business. And that's the stuff that I like a lot, which is, how do you sell it? How do you scale it up? And the models that I like the most are how Facebook did it with social media. What they did, if you guys don't know, because probably a lot of the audience is a little bit younger, they only started with certain universities, and they added universities one at a time in the United States. It was not a situation where it was open to the public right away. It took several years before they opened it up and allowed anybody to make a Facebook account. And why this was important is it was cool. And the whole thing about Facebook too is it was very sleek. It was just like a few different questions that were in there. There was other sites that were like that, but it was all very invasive. All the websites were all garbage. So there is this cool factor that comes along with it. And then I think about stuff like Tesla, which is like taking the design that is already out there that people, and then producing something that people believe in. The thing that made Tesla so huge, the cars I'm talking about, are that people wanted electric engineers or electric engines. They really wanted it. They believed in it. They believed in the idea of it reducing pollution and just electricity in general. And then I also look at the idea of like Beats by Dre. Beats by Dre were just some headphones, and all of a sudden everybody wanted them. I have like 3
terrible
pairs.
headphones as well. Really,
Yeah,
like
and
the
that's the thing. It's like
worst
quality
made,
doesn't even matter, right?
sound
So
awful. Yeah,
I want something that's simple, right? I want something that's simple that doesn't have a lot of moving parts in it because I don't want there to be a lot of maintenance fees. I want this thing to be able to run for years and years and years and just continually produce energy. I want it to be cool and sleek, and I want it to well, I guess those are the main things. But you can have like, you can make it cool in terms of like what Beats did by Dre did, where it's like, okay, we have a neat design, a sleek design, and you can get it to influencers, right? Like what I would want to start is like people like Andrew Tate are following me on Twitter now. Like Andrew Tate is following me on
wild.
Twitter.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, I've got Joe Rogan following me, General Flynn following me. There's probably more people that I haven't even recognized on there because I have so many people at this point. But it's like, imagine getting Andrew Tate to buy a free energy device. And then he's talking about it on his podcast about how he's got a fucking generator sitting there running his whole big, setup. And he's not even connected to the grid anymore. A guy that is like literally being attacked by what he calls the Matrix. Next thing you know, everybody's like, shit, I want one of those too. And that's how I imagine doing it because people are 100% going to be able to copy it. They're going to be able to produce other versions that are similar. And it's like, how do you beat out those people? You make sure it's cheaper than everybody else, and you make it cooler than all everybody else's devices. And that would be my plan to commercialize. And then the thing is like, you're also not going to mass produce it right away. You're going to initially start producing them like onesie twosie to people, kind of like what Matt Rife does with his company.
Do you know what I was going to bring up? The Royal Rifle machine. That's
funny. I was talking about it.
But we're getting in the hands of influencers and stuff like that. That's exactly what I see with the rifle machine right now.
Yep, and that's similar. I think that's another interesting business model, right? Is that you have it out there, and then you start by individually producing them, and as demand ramps up, then you start to set up a website for it, to people to order them, have different models available. And start allowing it to become available to the public. And early on, though, you make it like a very private thing where it's like you have to know me, you have to reach out. I think this could be successful. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is cool. I even am interested. To me, the biggest issue is just the cost, right? I really, really want to make it available to everybody that's out there, whether or not you're somebody who's a millionaire or somebody who's even working at like McDonald's, right? And from that perspective, you imagine it's very similar to a car. It's an investment that you put your money into, and there would be a cost benefit. Like how much are you paying per month in electricity, power, etc. out there, and what's the payback? And this is very similar to electric cars, where it's like you don't pay for gas anymore, and the electricity is much cheaper than the gas, but there's still this trade-off where it's not necessarily going to make sense for everybody. Like if your power bill is very low, you don't really need a generator that's going to produce you free energy. But if your power bill is very high, especially like, let's say you live in some cold climate where it's winter 6 months of the year, like where I potentially live, and then your heating bills are expensive. Some of these people's heating bills are like $500 to $1,000 a month. Like, can you imagine?
I mean, it's getting to the point for some people where they are choosing between how much food they can buy and I'm paying energy bills. It's crazy.
And so for people like that, you can imagine, like, even if a thing was $10,000, if that can make that bill go away, that's going to pay back in maybe 2 years or less, So those are the kind of cost benefit trade-offs that I imagine. And this is what I want people thinking about, why I want to talk to you about it and other podcasters in the future, which is that it's not as simple as like free energy means free devices for everybody. It just means that this is a new market in the energy sphere that can compete with other existing energy production. And for some people, the benefit will be no pollution, that we don't have to rely on fossil fuels and coal burning and even nuclear. For other people, it will be energy independence. And then for other people, it's just a straight up cost benefit analysis where they go, this is cheaper than what my current options are.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about like kinetic watches as well, kinetic watches charge themselves, but you still got to pay for the fucking watch.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these watches, I mean, you've seen how expensive watches. Heck, I mean, a free energy device is probably cheaper than a lot of these watches that are out there. So these really nice watches. So, I love the idea of this business. I'm all in it. The more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm like, this is great. And then it's just a matter of like finding the right people and finding the right product. And I'm not going to talk too much more about that, but I am, looking at the options, let's say.
Do you
And the moment
have
I have
a
more to
time
talk about,
scale in mind?
a lot sooner than what people think. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about, this isn't a 5-year plan. Like, this is something that we may have more to announce, like, within like potentially months, even before the end of the year. So that it's happening a lot faster than what I would have imagined. Like, I thought this would be like it could be like a long-term thing. And that's what's been amazing about this community and the people that I've run into and met, is that, like, I've met some just incredibly smart people, incredible people in general, and people that I would have never known. And so this really feels like a very, very unique opportunity where I'm connected to smart engineers. I'm connected to influencers that are out there, and very passionate people that know that this suppressed science is out there, and they want the world to know that it's possible as well. So I honestly feel truly blessed. And that goes back to what you were asking in the beginning, which is like, how does it feel to be like having people talking about you? It feels weird, but I don't feel any different.
Mm.
The whole Kim.com saga was kind of a mess. But one thing that sticks with me was, he said, don't let any of this change you. And I told him it never would. It never would and never will. Like, I will always be the person that I am. Maybe that's because I'm already like over 40 years old. So, but success and whatever won't change me. One other thing that I'll tell, which I think is okay, is I was just on with like Blurry Creatures,
Mm.
and I asked him about the whole Aaron Rodgers saga. He's a professional football player. This is a lot of this has already been out there, but then, like, he had this stuff with his family, some issues with his family, and and I told him that I've had issues with some of my family members in the past as well, where we didn't talk for a while. And what he had said is that, like, fame changes people, and it really does. It does change people. But for me, it would never change who I am. It wouldn't matter if I had $1 billion or if I had $1 in the bank account. I'm always going to be the same guy that all I want to do is help people. And I just want to leave my mark on this world and make this world a better place, no matter what that takes.
Well, it must be nice to have the opportunity to do it as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the part that's just that feels blessed, right? And this is the part where I would tell people who are out there is that you can change your own circumstances. Anybody that thinks that they don't have control of their circumstances, you're wrong. You can, absolutely. All I did was I ran across 2 videos that I would never have believed without having to dig into it. And then I just spent the effort to find out what they were all about. And that led to everything that there is now. A lot of celebrities and famous people and musicians will say, you have the ability to do whatever, you can be whatever you want in this world. And that's partially true, but not everybody can be a famous musician or a basketball player. There's limitations, but everybody can be a truth seeker. Everybody can be someone that digs and investigates into the truth. Everybody can be somebody who is a social media influencer. The key is A, seeking the truth, and then B, not being boring. Like I said, a lot of people out there, they just want to take pictures of themselves and post them on social media and talk about their feelings and stuff like that. And it's okay to have meta posts. I do some as well here and there. But you'll see that a lot of my content is focused on entertaining, like not necessarily entertaining people, but getting the information to people in a way that they enjoy reading. It's
Yeah,
not a
but I
situation.
think you have to be entertaining. It
Yeah,
it
you do.
doesn't work otherwise. You can't educate somebody with boredom.
It's true. It's true.
So
And so you have to pizzazz it up a little bit. And some people say, oh, well, that's cringe. And you can kind of minimize the amount of cringe, but there's a certain level of cringe where it's like you connect with people, right? You're just speaking your heart, you're speaking the truth.
I don't know if there's people talking in the chat there. Someone said, what do podcast appearances pay? Podcast appearances pay absolutely nothing because
0.
most podcasters get paid nothing.
Yeah, I think that people don't realize that there's way less money in social media and podcasting than what they imagine.
100%.
Way less. Like, people don't realize how little there is. Podcasts do not pay anything. I've never been paid even 1 cent for any podcast appearances I've ever done. And even if you're getting thousands of viewers, like you're getting, thousands of views on your content, you get paid very little. It's like, it's not until you start getting to the point where like you're getting like hundreds of thousands of views that you're really starting to rake money in. And I know that because I have a YouTube channel and I've seen, you know, like, I think one of the best months I ever had, I had like over 200,000 views and I got like $1,500 or $2,000. And that was mostly super chats and stuff like that, or like at least half, you know. It's like, you are not getting a huge amount of money from that. And I mean, even if you add that up, there's 12 months in the year. Let's say you make $2,000. That's $24,000. That's like barely above the poverty line in the United States. Like you can make more money working at McDonald's than that.
I also
so people need to realize that.
I don't think people understand either that because I saw there was some I found quite weird actually was somebody was adding up like the super chats you got in a month or something. And but they didn't take into consideration that they come up with this number which was like $4,000 or something like that. But you take 30% off that anyway because YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. It's weird. I think the amount of aggression you get fired towards you as well is if you were doing this for money, it makes it simply not worth it.
No, yeah, and even I think Ian Carroll was talking to Investigate Earth podcast the other day, and they were like, even Ian Carroll, and he it's his literal job, and he's like, yeah, Ashton's not making like crap, guys. Like he just basically told the world off that because Twitter also pays like it's one of the lowest payouts out there, and I have like 140,000 followers that are out there. You know, apparently TikTok is a lot better. You know, so if I was going to try to do this full time, I should be making videos and posting them on TikTok. But speaking of which, like this part's also kind of cool and relates to what we were talking about was that somebody was saying like the most viewed TikTok video had like almost 60 million views and it was just a woman like brushing her hair back or something like that.
It makes total sense. Like, that makes so much sense for why we are exactly where we are in the world.
Here's the funny part. Or the interesting part is that somebody showed me a couple months ago that there was a TikTok video. I think it was from the Matt Kim podcast that somebody clipped with me showing the satellite video and, you know, doing the mouse and showing all this stuff. It had over 40 million views on TikTok. So like I might be in like the top 100 in terms of like most viewed TikTok videos, which really goes to show you that like it's weird that the government and the media is not talking about me or the videos, because like I alone have over 170 million impressions just in the last 9 months on Twitter alone. I can like look up my profile here and it tells you exactly what your analytics are. And that's just me. Like that's not any other people or whatever. Actually 14 million impressions this week alone, 186 million impressions in just the last 9 months. And then that doesn't include any of the other people that have been posting about the stuff. That doesn't include the TikTok and all this other stuff as well. So this is a situation where like you said it, like some of these podcasts and stuff like Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, like these are bigger than mainstream media is at this point. And at some point, people are going to wonder, like, why is the government not saying anything about these videos? Like, it's starting to get pretty awkward.
Yeah. I know to go back to the Rogan one, I really would like to see Rogan pick this up because, the stuff he's had on lately, it would run really nicely to what he's had on. I think it makes me more interested in them, the fact he hasn't had you on yet. You know, when you consider, I don't know whether you watched the show he did with Bart Sabrell, which we had on the other week as well, and he did the whole like thing. He said, I'm going to steel man this argument because I think we all pretty much know that Rogan doesn't believe the moon landings happened. So he took this very strange stance with that interview. There's no reason why he couldn't take that stance with you. Yeah, there's no reason why he can't open the door and say, look, like, I am going to be a dick here and I'm going to argue everything you have to say here. And I would just like that to happen because I think either way, it would be closure for some people that make an awful lot of noise on social media.
Yeah, and I think it just gets more and more awkward for people like Joe Rogan, the bigger this gets in general, because he's literally talking to people who think the moon landing is fake, even though we can just like literally look up and see like the people's footsteps on the moon with like a camera that's adequate enough. And he's had people on that were like literally ended up being murderers, which is like,
Yeah.
you know, like the guy he had a guy who like got found with like body parts in the back of his car or something like that, like going on Joe Rogan. So it's like, it's not like, how is this a bridge too far? Like, this is potentially the biggest story in the history of the world. And it coincides with all the UFO stuff he's interested in. I keep hearing Joe Rogan talking about like he can't tell if it's a psyop or not with this UFO stuff. Like, I can answer all these questions for Joe Rogan. Like, I can be like, hey man, this is black budget projects. We can literally teleport planes. We can probably teleport crafts. A lot of the stuff that people are seeing literally is our technology. I don't know if we got it from aliens or whatever, but you know, I can tell you for a fact that like there's engineers that have been working on this kind of stuff that have produced these. So what we're seeing in the MH370 videos isn't aliens. It's like our technology. And I think that will help him to understand the nature of the questions that he wants to know. And then where I want to push that is like, okay, well, what's the nature of the non-human intelligence stuff? Like Tucker Carlson always says he doesn't know, and he sees it from this spiritual perspective. And everybody right now is all in on this like dimensional stuff. I think this is all a big distraction. And again, I don't know the exact nature of it, but I don't think that the aliens are coming from the ether or whatever. Like that's not, I don't think that's the way to like get it.
I think you need to go and find yourself a massive dose of psychedelics, and
then I'll change my perspective.
I genuinely think you'll change your perspective on that.
That's funny. It could. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's interesting. So, but in the end of the day, like I don't care about the non-human intelligence side of it, wherever that comes from, wherever the technology comes from, I don't know. But the funny part is, if you had asked me a year ago, like, hey, what are your thoughts on aliens, whatever, I would say, yeah, there must be aliens out there. Maybe they're visiting us in advanced technological crafts. And now the more research I look into this, like the history of the technology, and the more engineers I listen to, the more I'm like, no, I think that this
somebody
technology...
said massive dose of psychedelics, and all of a sudden he appears like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, boom. But no, so I think that the more
somebody
I look into
psychedelic?
Yes. The more I look into the history of it, though, the more I'm convinced that we've been developing this technology since like the 40s, and that we don't need aliens or anything to even explain it at all. Like I think it could literally be adequately explained by like us from the Manhattan Project finding like the flip side of the coin, which is like one side's atomic power and the other side's like quantum power, like scalar physics, and that we just hid one side of the coin, and that we've been using, you know, aliens and what have you as a distraction, so that people, because to explain what people can't otherwise comprehend, because otherwise the answer is we have to go tell people, yes, we have this advanced technology, we've known about free energy, we've known about electrogravitics, we've known that Maxwell's equations were right. So instead of saying all that, we just say, nah, it's just aliens. Like, yeah, just go ask about the aliens or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, go ahead.
What a miss.
Yeah,
we've just been chatting. Are you okay? What's the tornado situation over there?
Yeah. So
God, I love this sign, by the way.
it went through several. Like it apparently didn't, but there was rotation detected, and my wife and I have the phones that, like, in the event of a disaster, you know, when, like, there's an attack or something, and they stop people from texting, we can still text and make phone calls. And so we're also all part of an alert system that's pretty serious. So when you get that alert, it's like, all right, this isn't a joke. Or it's like, not warning from your news. It's from the government. And they said, you should look out. And so we did. And then they're like, oh, never mind. It went in a different direction. You can come back up. So there you go. It's pretty rare to get something like that where I live. Thanks, man. It's pretty rare to get something like that. The topography here doesn't lend itself well to tornadoes, but Tennessee gets a lot in general, especially middle Tennessee. So
for the people in the chat wondering about the sign, I am going to move the sign. It's not on the wall yet. I'm going to move the sign probably up here somewhere. Maybe I'll zoom out so the sign is visible above my head. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Leave it right there and then never acknowledge it.
Yeah. Signgate has been a real thing in the chat.
Yeah, it really is.
People are upset with the sign.
They're more upset about the sign than me pushing videos they don't think is real. It's getting pretty. Signgate's getting pretty serious back here, chat.
What's
in some ways?
I don't see a sign.
Do you think in some ways now the videos might get to the point where they kind of get in the way of what you want to do? Where they
no, I do imagine that there'll be narratives that'll start to form, especially if I start pushing the free energy stuff, that people are like, oh, this is the guy that pushed the videos or whatever. But that's totally fine. Yes, I am the guy that pushed the videos. There's like no question about that. I think that the MH370 videos have already hit the zeitgeist to the point now where it's got a life of its own.
100%.
And even if I were to stop talking about them, people will always bring them back up every so often, and they'll get millions and millions of views. And you'll have people arguing that these morons sitting on a couch debunked them and what have you. That's just the way it's probably going to be until the government issues a statement. But on that front, the AARO is like gone completely silent. Like they came back with that weird email, and I'll read that email because I don't think I was on with you guys when I first got it.
Please.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, so April 11th, it's now May 26th. April 11th, the AARO sent me back the last response that I've gotten from them to date. And this one blew my mind. Like when I posted this, I was like, this is the biggest update, like not just in the video history, but like MH370 history, because I gave them the information that is verifiable information. Like those, they can admit that those videos are real. Like that's an MQ-1C Gray Eagle. That's our spy satellite surveillance system that the world doesn't know about. And I gave them Edward C. Lynn. I also gave them Joseph F. Dunford, which is probably the general who was in charge of the operation. And so they could, track this stuff down and confirm it. Any one of those things would confirm the whole situation is real, that the operation happened, all of this. And their response back on April 11th was, Mr. Forbes, my apologies for the slow response. AARO is researching several topics at the moment. Some of AARO's initial research into MH370 has revealed the U.S. government's search efforts after the airliner disappeared from radar. What? I believe the genesis and authenticity of the videos may be helpful. Can you confirm the date the videos were posted to the Regicide Anon YouTube channel? And yes, a quick follow-up call may be helpful. Well, it's like 6 weeks later, and they haven't responded on that follow-up call. So I have this nagging feeling, and my intuition is pretty good, that they figured out that those videos were real and that the AARO is under the Pentagon and the DOD, and somebody made the call and said, yeah, stop talking about that. Stop talking to that guy. Ignore that guy, ghost that guy, while they try to figure out what they're going to say to me to try to gaslight me, because there's no way they can gaslight me. Like I just have way too much evidence. And I just posted today all the radars. There's 5 different radars that should have seen the plane after they claim it went off of radar. There's like two in Indonesia, 1 in India, which India controls those islands in the Nicobar Islands, and there's 2 in Thailand that all should have seen the plane after they claimed the plane dropped off of radar. And it's like, what, 5 different radars should have been tracking the plane still? Where's all that data? Where is it? Like, this is where I'm like, guys, if this plane was hijacked or, suicidal pilot, all of these countries would be throwing the data out there to people going, here's where we saw it last. Here's what happened to it. The only reason to cover up all those radars, the only reason is that it was a state-sponsored event. We took the plane and we control those countries, and we told them don't show that information to anybody because it would reveal that those videos are real. So it's just wild, man. Like it blows my mind that people still can't come to terms with the fact that the videos are real, because the evidence is just straight up overwhelming. And the other thing I want to point out too, going back to the MH370 stuff, was that just a couple days ago, the Cardiff University, that's in a university in the UK, they've analyzed all the acoustic detections down in the South Indian Ocean. And guess what? There's none. And they also confirmed that the acoustic detection should have easily heard the plane crash into the South Indian Ocean. They can hear for 3,000 kilometers, and it's less than 2,000 kilometers away. They've reviewed all the data, and there was only one faint signal that isn't consistent with a plane crash that they heard. And now they're asking them to go and do controlled explosions in the ocean to try to figure out if there's anything that they can match up. But that's just another fancy way of saying we found nothing, and we can't explain how we found literally no acoustic detections in that area. Well, the answer is pretty damn simple. We also found no debris down there as well. And if it crashed there, the debris would have washed up in Africa. This doesn't take, you don't have to be some expert on avionics or, airplanes or engineering or anything to figure this out. Just basic common sense will tell you this plane didn't go to the South Indian Ocean.
Well, that's the really irritating thing, like I said before, because if you're doing the debunk stuff, surely the most interesting thing, the most interesting way to look at this is just to turn around and say, look, Ashton, right, I don't agree with you about the videos. I don't think this plane got zapped into oblivion, but it's fucking strange. and we should all work out exactly what happened to this plane, rather than this just brick wall of like, no, you're wrong, and we should just stop talking about this. And I'm increasingly seeing that irritating argument of the, won't somebody think of the children because people died? Because of course, no, you're not allowed to question something because somebody died now. Really, really weird.
Well, we don't even know anyone died. That's the crazy part. There's no bodies found. We didn't find any bodies. Like, and this is the part where like the people that are making that argument should be very careful, because I'm taking note of those people. I have a whole channel called Losers where I take screenshots of people that make the fake compassion argument, because the moment these videos are proven real, I'm going to be flipping that argument back on the people that were trying to debunk the videos and saying, you are a effing ghoul for trying to cover up what happened to 239 people. And I can't wait to flip the compassion argument back on the people who are covering up the fate of 239 people. Imagine how much of a monster you have to be trying to deny what happened to 239 people. This is why I tell people, like, I'm literally going to send the families after the debunkers to sue them for everything they have, using Alex Jones Sandy Hook case as precedent, because you're literally covering up what happened to 239 people. So if you're trying to come at me with these compassion arguments, get ready. It's going to come flip back on you. Guys, the reason why I'm so confident, like people say, like, Ashton's so arrogant. Yeah, you would be arrogant too if you're literally staring at the answers to the test. 2 + 2 = 4. And then you've got the students coming up to you, yelling at you, going, no, 2 + 2 = 5. This is how it works. It's 2 + 2. Yeah, well, you're just going to tell them, shut the hell up. Like, I'm literally staring at the answers. So you're going to be confident and cocky too, because I'm literally staring at the answers and you're trying to tell me that 2 + 2 = 5. Like, I can tell you that you're wrong. Whether or not you come to terms with that or how long it takes you to come to terms with 2 + 2 = 4 doesn't matter to me. What I'm saying, guys, is the science behind these videos and the ether and the free energy, 100% going to be proven to be true, guys. 100%. So, you know, whatever you want to do, if you want to deny reality, like, there's still people that are denying reality all the time, right? This is like the clergy when they were trying to convince Galileo that, like, you know, the sun revolves around the earth. And he's like, nah, man, where it's like, it's, you know, we're not geocentric universe here. So, you know, and there's even people today that are still arguing that. So at the end of the day, you're never going to convince everybody. And this is part of the reason too why, like, you can't use like an open source method for free energy. That never going to solve anything. Putting the stuff out in the open source is not going to solve it. There's just going to be more and more controversy. People are going to say it can't work, or it can't possibly work, or you must be cheating. The only way to prove it is to turn it into a viable business model and have people just see it for themselves. And then once enough people have seen it for themselves, then the paradigm will just shift. Everyone will accept it as being self-evident. And then we can move on to hopefully Star Trek world.
Well, there's also models they could use to monetize it. Like, you wouldn't necessarily put it in everybody's home, but you could have it at distribution plants. So you're still going to have maintenance. You're still going to have that, because you don't necessarily want something like that in the hands of someone who's a little too smart for their own good and is tired of getting bullied at school. Yeah. Like, there's still monetary benefit for it. It would take up like the same direction as nuclear power plants.
Yeah, you can still do that. I mean, you know,
there's
money related. The whole money makes the whole world go round.
Exactly.
Like, there's people think that, like, oh, we're just going to get rid of the money system, like, or that everything should just be free out there. Well, that's called socialism. That's called communism, right? And even those systems, you still have a monetary value that you're distributing amongst people. If you understand economics, you understand that there is no getting rid of money. Money already is just a piece of paper. You know, like, I've got this piece of paper right here. This $10 bill right here is just a piece of paper. It's only worth $10 because we believe it's worth $10. So even if we get rid of this entirely, there will be some other system that comes up and replaces it. So end of the day, you know, that's how all this stuff is going to end up playing out. And I think it's a beautiful way to have it play out, because personally, I guess I'm going to call myself libertarian now. I'm maybe officially joining the Libertarian Party. And I believe in the free market. I think that the free market will decide how things play out.
The market should.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to always go that way.
Yeah, and I would say, and there's, you know, looking through the chat, there's some of my detractors, some of the common ones that are out there. You know, I want to repeat the thing about rumination. So there was a psychologist that went on with Joe Rogan.
Clint just said that $10 was what he made off monetization.
Someone send a $10 super chat real quick. That's my $10 super chat right there, guys.
Quantum teleported super chats. That's the future.
This idea, I love this idea from people too, that like I'm like grifting off of the situation. Guys, people have written books about stuff and made millions of dollars. Hell, if you're mad about people grifting off the situation, you should be mad at Mentor Pilot. Mentor Pilot's video has over 4 million views. He's probably made $100,000 or at least tens of thousands of dollars off that video, and it's complete dog shit. He completely ignored most of the evidence. He ignored the fact that he didn't even get the amount of lithium-ion batteries in the plane correct. He completely ignored the fact that they're super dangerous and banned. And then he did some weird psychoanalysis nonsense on completely normal communications to try to vilify the pilot. If anyone out there is grifting off of it, Mentor Pilot might be the #1 grifter on the planet related to MH370. Not just that, he has an ad. He does one of those ads in the middle of his video where he's like literally doing the ad, not like a splice in, and then says use code pilot for 60% off. Guys, before anyone comes at me for grifting, please go find this grifter, Mentor Pilot. Please, because this dude's the biggest grifter MH370 out there. I'm like, if there's a list of top 100 grifters on MH370, I'm at the literal bottom of it. Like literally bottom. I haven't made any books. I've sold nothing. I've never asked anybody for money ever that are out there. Like this is the part where like the whole like this disinformation about being a grifter is like the dumbest argument possible. At least find better arguments, guys.
I think the funny thing with the grift thing as well is it doesn't give any room for somebody just to be wrong.
Correct.
So is that, are you so if you're, let's say you're promoting something that's wrong, but you're making money off it, are you still a grifter, or do you just, or is your business model just flawed but you believe it? The guy, what's his name, the Carnivore MD, was it? The guy he was all over TikTok and everything. He was on Rogan. He was promoted like the carnivore diet. He had this
Liver King. Was it Liver King?
No, it wasn't Liver King. It was somebody else. But his thing was that he believed that plants, but vegetables, secreted something which was to try and stop people eating them. So we were ingesting it. It was making us sick. So he went on this diet of purely meat and fruit. And he did it for a year. He wrote a book about it. He was promoting it everywhere. And he literally just the other week came out on a podcast and said, started to get a bit ill, so I reintroduced vegetables to my diet. It's probably not a good move for most people. And he wasn't a grifter. He was just wrong in what he originally thought.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, being wrong is totally fine. Is that Mark Sisson? Is that the guy?
Maybe, yeah. Is it like he's
Primal Kitchen?
Yes. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
It looks like it could be the guy. I'm Googling it, but yeah, it's being wrong. Yeah, and this is the thing too. Like I don't go like I'm only saying this stuff about Mentor Pilot because I think his video is ridiculous, and he's vilifying the pilot, which is like the pilot is 100% innocent. So anybody who's trying to vilify the pilot, that is literally a bigger conspiracy theory. Like the officials ruled out the pilot. I was actually just watching a clip from 2019 of the Royal Aeronautical Society. There's like 2 generators, 2 backup generators, and then a 5th generator as well. Like you can't turn all this shit off from the cockpit. There's literally no chance that the pilot could have even pulled this maneuver off. And this guy's trying to vilify the pilot out there. So I'm being a little bit coy about it. I don't care. I think that everybody's got to make money and they can do whatever they want with their YouTube channels. I'm just giving people perspective to show people that the people who are attacking me about making money off this case are 100% disingenuous. They don't hold other people to the same standard that they're trying to hold me to. It's not about trying to solve the case for these people. It's about trying to make the videos go away and trying to discredit me. That's literally what their objective is. That's what their goal is. That's why when it comes to rumination, like these people have some weird parasocial connection where they think about me all the time. Like, and this is what like mental illness is like when you're sitting there thinking about someone all the time and you're just trying to build up these stories in your head about someone. Like, I don't know any of these people. None of these people have ever met me in real life. And then they invent these narratives about what I think. Like there was some idiot in the chat was saying like, Ashton knows what he's saying about the videos is wrong. Like how mentally unwell do you have to be to like think that you know what I'm thinking? Like, I'm on the record saying my thoughts openly and honestly in 80 plus podcasts and like 100 live streams and all my Twitter stuff. Nobody's ever been able to find any lies that I've ever pushed. You know, and there's a big difference between being wrong about something, which I've retracted several times. I even apologized to Mick West one time. Even though I wasn't even really that wrong, to be honest with you. Like, you can't reverse image search to a video. Like, what ended up happening, he reversed image searched to an image that found him, that led him to a video, which is a completely different thing. But I still apologize because I'm an honest guy. Mick West has lied about me several times, including a couple days ago. Never apologized about it. The thing about Redditors, the difference between me and the debunkers is that I admit when I'm wrong because I'm an honest guy. They will never admit that they're wrong ever. We've proven this girl Krishley or whatever, who's been going on this rampage.
She's
lied about me.
now.
Oh, she's in the chat.
Mhm.
Yeah, she lied about me.
Can we send her a link? Would you be willing to speak to her?
If she's going to show her face, I'm not interested in talking to people who are hiding behind.
Krishley, would you be willing to talk to us? You got to show your face.
I'm done. I'm not talking to anybody who's hiding behind.
No hiding.
Like alts or hiding behind. You know, they don't want to show their face or whatever. I'm tired of this. These people.
Well, I mean,
if
that's
you're not
what I'm saying. Let's put her on the spot right now.
Yeah.
Put up or shut up, right?
Yeah, put up or shut up. But here's the thing: like, she lied about me saying that I hoped that I was like wanted the families to die, the people to die. She completely invented this fake reticle debunk out of thin air that is 100% wrong.
I've watched the reticle debunk, and I'm still sometimes I'm unsure on the flash and stuff like that, but the reticle debunk, I'm pretty convinced that's that's a compression artifact.
Yeah, so
and people already pointed out that it's the combination, like the reticle is built into the software, the same thing that's adding the layer over the top. And people dug into it, and I literally posted an image where you can see a different drone video or reticle where it's like bending because it's not some kind of thing that's automatically over the top of everything. None of these people ever apologize or ever admit that they're wrong, right? Like, we prove beyond a doubt. And it's one second.
Well, Krishley responded, and she says that she's not going to take demands from someone who threatened to dox her. We're not threatening to dox you. You just, show your face. Like, we're not going to hide.
This is the dishonest bullshit that they pull, right? Like, threaten to dox you.
But for that, we want to do it. So, there's the
why do these people victimize themselves all the time, though, right? Like, this is the thing that I don't get. Like, every time they just victimize themselves, and they harass me nonstop. There's people who have been harassing me in the chat nonstop, lying about me, and yet they try to claim that they're victims.
So, Krishley, just email us there. We won't give your email over to Ashton or anyone else. We check anyone who actually watches this regularly. We're very good about that.
No, it's not going to happen.
Ashton, people who have wanted information from Ashton, we'll message Ashton and ask if he's even willing to talk to them. We've done that before.
Yeah, these people just need to move on. Krishley needs to move on. The rest of these debunkers who have been out there forever, just move on with your lives. I hate to just be as blunt as I can here, but you're wrong about the videos. And the longer you push on this, the worse it's going to look for you in general, because these videos are real and they are going to get proven to real. And so is the science.
I think something's lost in text, right? We lose the inflection, we lose the tone, we lose the ability.
You read
some of these people who have
a
vastly different opinion. It's good for them to actually be able to talk instead of text, right? We lose something in text. We get something in our own head that I've had issues with friends in the past when I just took a text the wrong way. So it's good to be able to talk. And I agree. You should be able to see someone's face when you're talking to them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing too, is like, and this is something in business and real jobs. And when people have had real jobs, I kind of doubt that a lot of the debunkers have had a real job where they would tell you too, don't send an angry email to people, because when you talk to somebody face to face, it's a lot more difficult to be aggressive and to defend them. A lot of people who are making up the lies about me would never say that to my face. Some of them would. We've seen that in some of the spaces where they have these meltdowns and just like scream at me. But a lot of them wouldn't. A lot of these people are just the definition of a troll too is like somebody that would never say what they're saying to your face in the real world. They hide behind the anonymity.
Oh, yes.
And they love it.
So many of them.
A lot of them do.
Mm-hmm. So many of them. They hide behind the fact they won't see. Now, I don't know anything about this particular. I don't know if it's a woman or a man, Krishley or Shishley. I'm probably saying it wrong. I don't follow it that much.
I don't want to assume her gender or pronouns or anything.
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
not trying to do that. My face has nothing to do with my credibility.
I'm just kidding.
So she's saying my face has nothing to do with my credibility. Ashton has lost all privilege to speak with me again. Screenshots of the threats on my page. I have lost no issue. I have no issues. That's fine, but what worse? And I understand whatever. I guess your I don't understand your point, but now is an opportunity, right? And for us, what the face has to do with is you can just see who you're talking to.
Mhm.
You can see who you're talking to. It matters. It makes a difference. It allows for you actually have a chance to speak to him and tell him he's wrong or he's right.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like
Yeah.
these people seem to want attention, but the moment you give them the attention, then they immediately start playing the victim card. I've put my face out there, my name out there since October of last year, and I've been under nonstop attacks since then. So I think it's really hypocritical to claim some type of victimization status while what's the phrase, like they cry out in pain as they strike at you or whatever. They strike you while they cry out in pain. That is perpetually the debunkers. They invent these narratives that they're under some mythical attack, or like the picture taker Jonas. They always claim that this Jonas guy has been harassed by people. He's literally never been harassed by anybody, and he's never produced any evidence of any harassment ever. And they always claim that this guy's under some sort of harassment. Like, this is a guy that inserted himself into the case, that made a debunk video within an hour of receiving an anonymous email, where I literally messaged him and told him, you probably shouldn't do this because you're going to get, like, people are going to criticize you. You open yourself up to criticism when you involve yourself in a situation. Like, you cannot claim to be a victim when you choose to make a conscious choice to include yourself in a situation. And it's not like anybody's getting death threats or anything like that. Nobody's lives are being threatened. There's people who literally said they're going to try to get me to lose my job. Like, that's, so for anyone else to claim that they're victims is
that was
wild,
crazy, man.
Real wild stuff.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, for her or him, it's just a chance to actually speak to someone face to face, to have an actual conversation. It goes a lot further than making claims where nobody's able to answer it. There's also a human connection when you're looking at the person you're talking to and you realize they're a person. It makes a difference. It's easy to say crazy.
It makes it difficult to make villains. That's the thing.
Exactly. It humanizes them. Then you get to know them. Like we've talked to people and had people on shows that didn't like us, and then they talk to us before and after, because as Ashton will attest to, we do that. We're normal people. We're normal people. I've met Ashton in person. He's a normal dude. Except
I'm a very chill guy, and like
I'm
a very easy to get along with guy, which is the funniest part. And it's like, if the people that thought that they were being threatened held themselves to their own standards, they would see that they are the monster that they imagine that I am. It's literally projection. By their own standards of threatening, these people have been threatening me for 8 months straight. So this is the part where, like, there's no credibility to any of the things they say. There's no credibility to their debunks. I have already even made a statement that I'm not going to be giving them any more attention. I shouldn't even be talking about them this like right now, but you've got many of them in the chat, so I figured we'd address it. But this is why, like, again, just as one final statement again on this, is that the videos are real. They're going to be proven real, and so is the science behind them. So I'm not going to waste any more of my time with people making claims about what something should look like when they don't actually have any experience in that, where people are saying like, oh, the drone video should look like this, or this should, or, the reticle should look like this. These are people that don't have any credibility with respect to those claims. So I don't have to disprove people's assertions, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so that's why I'm not going to spend any more time with it in general.
I think it's an interesting thing for other people to be like, see, this right here is a comment they're hiding behind. It's like, beyond the doxing, you haven't been doxed. So I've heard and seen firsthand the horrible. So you're blanketing and hiding behind things about his what he feels about women's appearance. You're not going to come on. Nobody's going to make fun of your appearance. Other than this is
the funny part too, is that this Rebecca Watson girl. First of all, she came at me and she made a defamatory video about me, Rebecca Watson. Then, so first of all, she attacked me. Yeah, nobody's ever heard of her. She attacked me first. She made a video about me, unprecedented. I never had heard of who she was. She attacked me. So do you see how they flip it? Like, I was the victim, and they make it so that this woman's the victim. And I did make a reaction video because I dug into her past and found out that she's been lying about shit, victimizing herself, that she got kicked off her podcast. I did make a video about it, making fun of her, and I regretted it. And I apologized for it formally on the record. I ended up deleting the video as well. And I admitted that I made a mistake, but it's not something like, once you've done something like that, it's not like you can erase it. So you
can't erase it.
You can just move on. And so this is where they take stuff like that out of context to victimize themselves and to try to defame me.
The offer has definitely been given to him or her to speak. If they wanted to, they would.
And for the record, they have doxed me as well. I've literally seen the doxing on Reddit where they were doxing my location and my identity. They also committed felony fraud against me. These same people, it's the literal people in the chat are the ones that committed felony fraud against me and stole $3,000 from me, that planned this very psychopathic, like, RAR file scam. So once again, the people that are saying this stuff about me are literally the thing that they imagine I am. Like, it's all 100% projection. Just like the Danny Jones. Just like the Danny Jones interview, though.
Okay.
Like, Danny Jones was thinking that I was being defensive when he was being defensive. Like, it's all projection with these types of people.
That was a bad interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that did not
Don't
go
make
the
that
way.
mistake. Oh, yeah. And the record for that, guys, if you're not sure, anytime you go on a podcast, if they try to get you to sign a disclaimer, get up and walk away right away. Podcasters don't make you sign disclaimers unless their goal is to defame you and they're afraid that they're going to get sued based on how they edit you out of context. So, or how they treat you. So anytime someone tries to get you to sign a disclaimer on a podcast, just get up, walk out.
Yeah. Well, we've been going a while, man, and we do think you're going to end up on Rogan. I think that needs to happen. This conversation needs a broader audience. Real, fake, in between. The technology brought up the fact that the government has things they're obviously lying about that you were able to bring up, that they're trying to hide in plain sight is, I think, the best way to put it. There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of families of people who disappeared, and that's tragic.
Yeah.
They all deserve answers. This conversation deserves to continue. What's that?
Yeah, I want to shout out David Pallades as well, who the thing I like about Lies People, my favorite comments, now that we've got away some of the negativity, the people that have gotten on board with it, where I'm sitting here talking about teleporting planes and free energy, which is just way out there. But people look at the evidence with an open mind and they go, wow, I was misled by the Danny Jones interview, or, you know, I thought you were crazy, but then I looked at the evidence and realized, whoa, this guy's actually like using logic and reason to come to his conclusions. And David Pallades is a guy that's looking for missing people. Like, that's like his goal in life. And there's almost nothing more noble than that, is to look into people who've been forgotten, that have just disappeared under mysterious circumstances. And I appreciate that he's a guy that has looked into it, and he has been supporting me. And the way that he's been supporting me is way different than people like Kim.com. Like, Kim.com never retweeted any of my stuff, which should have been a big red flag in general. And David would just retweet my stuff, quote tweet stuff, say that, you know, people should look into this and things like that. Like, that's the way you support somebody. And I want to say thank you to David Pallades for looking into this stuff. I want to thank him for looking into people that are missing out there that have been forgotten, because there's a lot of cold cases that have just gone.
411 is an unbelievably important topic we should all be talking about, not just in the wilderness, but in cities, the nature of the disappearances, what's going on, and the phenomenon. We need to talk about this. The government needs to talk about this. Yeah. And
the people that have come, there's been several people recently that have been in my comments that were like, hey, I thought you were off your rocker. This couldn't be possible. But, you know, I looked into it and I realized like there's something here. Or even sometimes people are like, hey, I was one of the person attacking you, calling you, you know, all these bad names. And I realized that you're not that, because it's a big difference between the way that you get presented through misinformation and disinformation and vilification through people with bad intent, and then just listening to someone. Kind of like you said about when you get somebody right in front of you, it's a different conversation than when you're making videos about somebody or talking about somebody behind their back. And so I want to thank those people as well who've come around. And you know, I just want to let those people know I appreciate it. Like, I've always just been a normal guy who fell into one of the craziest situations that I could never have imagined my whole life.
Well, we definitely appreciate you. And we appreciate you continuing to come back on the podcast and talk to us. And it's just been a really interesting journey to watch, like your journey from the sidelines, and to play a small part in it has been fascinating.
Oh, and one more thing too is that I don't know if the Jason Sands is the real Jason Sands in there, but for all the other people that are they're whistleblowers that are pushing stuff, and also like Jon Stewart, for example. Like, I want you guys to know too that, like, I do have your guys' backs. Even I may not even believe in the stuff that you're pushing, but anybody who's an authentic person who is pushing information out there, trying to get to the world, I know how difficult that is. And I just want you to know that I do have your back out there. I don't want to be attacking anybody like that, even if I don't agree with them, because I think that if you believe in something and that you're trying to push your truth out there, you deserve to be heard. And especially if you're doing it from an authentic standpoint, whether or not you're right or wrong, like, it deserves proper scrutiny. So for the Jason Sands of the world out there, you know, I wish you the best of luck. For John Stewart pushing the DNI alien video, I also wish you the best of luck as well. And I hope in the future, when we get the answers about MH370, or I can prove free energy is real, that I can take a more active role in helping platform those people to bring them up to the mainstream.
Yeah, on the Jason Sands thing, if it is the real Jason in the comments, then shoot us an email, because we'd love to get you on as well. On the John Stewart thing, he has had so much stuff thrown at him as well. And the top and bottom of it is, after speaking to that guy a few times, he's just a really nice bloke.
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy, and he doesn't deserve any vitriol just because somebody doesn't believe that he should believe in a video of what might be an alien.
Absolutely. And real quick as well, to the people that are like the classic UFO kind of disclosure advocates, the Gary Nolans, James Foxes, Lou Elizondos, even the Ross Coulharts, all these other people that are out there, like, I'm also on your side. Like, my goal has never been to distract from anything that any of these people are doing. My goal has simply been to push through this slow acclimation process that I think is going out there, this slow drip disclosure, and just rip the Band-Aid off. So if any of those people are out there, I don't plan on attacking any of you. I know that in the past I have, been pretty critical of some of the things that they've stated that are out there. I am an advocate. So if any of those people are listening and they want assistance with disclosure, I am at your beck and call. Just hit me up anytime.
That's awesome, man. And with that, Lee, take us out, man.
See you later, guys. Cheers, Ashton.
See ya.
I want to be on your show, Joe. The reason why I want to be on your show is because I believe I can convince you, I can convince the whole world that the MH370 videos are real. I am willing to refute all the VFX debunk attempts that have been out there on your show. Spend time and do that as well. I just want to give information to you, Joe Rogan, and to the world. If at the end of the conversation, you think that I'm in any way disingenuous, or that you just don't believe the MH370 videos are real, then I will stop investigating MH370 entirely, cold turkey, won't mention the plane again. I am willing to put everything on the line, everything, just for one chance to help inform the world about what might be the biggest revelation in the history of our civilization. You've had people like Terrence Howard on, who've talked about the ether, talked about phase conjugation. You've had other people in the past who've talked about things like teleportation. You've talked about anti-gravity researchers going away, disappearing, like Ning Li. We can talk about all of that. I'm willing to go through all of the case of MH370. I'm even willing to go against any kind of other expert on the MH370 videos, on the MH370 investigation, and any physicist that's out there that you want to bring on the show. I will argue and debate against any of them on it, and you can be the moderator. That's my proposal to you, Joe. I hope you consider it. Thank you very much. This is Ashton.
That was insane.
It was. Do you know what? It has to be said that although Tiny Hands has left us to go on holiday, he's hooked us up with 2 really good intros on his way out, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He is really good at those.
Forbes forever.